What happens when a Hollywood legend sits down for what should be a simple morning interview, only to face disrespect that crosses every line? In just 41 seconds, one weatherman's arrogance would spark a clash so explosive that it ended with security being called and cameras cutting to commercial. This is the story of how Sam Champion destroyed his own career on live television. It started like any other Tuesday morning. The Good Morning America studio buzzed with its usual energy. Robin Roberts sat at the anchor desk, shuffling her notes. George Stephanopoulos adjusted his earpiece. Laura Spencer checked her makeup one last time. And Sam Champion, the show's weatherman, prepared to co-host a segment with their special guest. That guest was Clint Eastwood. The legendary actor and director had agreed to come on the show to discuss his latest film project. At 70-something years old, Eastwood remained one of the most respected figures in Hollywood. His career spanned decades. His films had won Academy Awards. His presence commanded respect wherever he went. But Sam Champion apparently missed that memo. The interview began pleasantly enough. Robin Roberts welcomed Eastwood to the show with genuine warmth. "Clint, it's such an honor to have you here with us this morning," she said, smiling broadly. Eastwood nodded politely. "Thank you for having me." George Stephanopoulos jumped in next. "Your new film has been generating incredible buzz. Can you tell us a little about what drew you to this project?" Eastwood leaned forward, ready to answer. But before he could speak, Sam Champion interrupted. "Actually, before we get into all that boring film stuff, I have to ask," Champion said, his tone dripping with false enthusiasm. "How does it feel to still be working at your age? I mean, most people your age are playing bingo in retirement homes." The studio went quiet. Robin Roberts' smile faltered. George Stephanopoulos shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Laura Spencer's eyes widened. Eastwood stared at Champion for a long moment. "Excuse me?" Champion laughed, seemingly oblivious to the tension. "Oh, come on. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You're what, 80-something? 90? Don't you think it's time to hang it up and let the younger generation take over?" "Sam," Robin Roberts interjected, her voice carrying a warning tone. "Maybe we should—" No, I want to hear his answer," Champion insisted, waving her off dismissively. "I mean, Hollywood is a young person's game now. All these old-timers clinging to relevance, it's kind of sad, don't you think?" Eastwood's jaw tightened. His eyes, famous for their intensity on screen, fixed on Champion with laser focus. "I think you need to watch your mouth, son." The weatherman laughed again, but this time it sounded forced. "Oh, here we go, the tough guy routine. Look, I've seen your movies. The squinting, the growling, the whole man with no name thing. But this is real life, not one of your westerns." George Stephanopoulos tried to intervene. "Sam, I really think we should move on to—" "George, please," Champion said, cutting him off with a hand gesture. "The adults are talking." That comment made Laura Spencer audibly gasp. Robin Roberts closed her eyes briefly, as if praying for patience. Eastwood remained calm, but everyone in the studio could feel the storm building. "I came here to talk about my film," he said evenly. "If you want to have a conversation about that, fine. If not, I'm not interested in whatever game you're playing." Champion leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Game? I'm just being honest. Something your generation never learned to appreciate. You all lived in this bubble where everyone kissed your feet and told you how great you were. But times have changed, old man." "Sam." Robin Roberts' voice was sharp now. "That is completely inappropriate." "What?" "I'm just saying what the viewers at home are thinking." Champion protested. "Nobody wants to watch geriatric action heroes anymore. Nobody cares about some old guy's opinions on filmmaking. The world has moved on." Eastwood stood up slowly. The microphone clipped to his shirt picked up every word he said next. "I've been in this business for over 50 years. I've worked with the best directors, the best actors, the best crews in the world. I've won awards. I've made films that will be remembered long after you're forgotten. And I've never, in all that time, met someone as disrespectful and unprofessional as you." Champion's smirk faded slightly. "Oh, so now I'm unprofessional? Because I'm not fawning all over you like everyone else?" "No," Eastwood said, his voice low and controlled. "Because you're a small man trying to make himself feel big by tearing others down. That's not journalism. That's not entertainment. That's just pathetic." The weatherman's face flushed red. "Pathetic? You want to talk about pathetic? You're the one who can barely walk without a cane, coming on television pretending you're still relevant. Your time is over, Grandpa. That's it, George Stephanopoulos said firmly. Sam, you need to stop right now. But Champion was on a roll. Why should I stop? Because the truth hurts? Because Mr. Big Shot director can't handle a little criticism? Well, guess what, Clint? You're not special. You're just another washed up has been desperately clinging to get out. Eastwood's voice cut through Champion's rant like a knife. Two simple words, delivered with absolute authority. Champion blinked. What? I said get out, Eastwood repeated. This is my interview. I was invited here as a guest. And I'm not sitting here listening to some arrogant weatherman insult me on live television. Robin Roberts stood up quickly. Clint, please, I apologize for Sam's behavior. This is not how we conduct interviews on this show. I can see that, Eastwood said, his tone softening slightly when addressing her. And I appreciate your professionalism, Robin. You too, George, Laura, but I'm not doing this. He looked directly at Champion. Not with him. Champion's ego wouldn't let it go. Fine, leave. Run away like the coward you really are. All that tough guy acting was just that, wasn't it? Acting. In real life, you're nothing. Laura Spencer grabbed Champion's arm. Sam, stop talking, please. He shook her off. Why should I? He started this by getting all sensitive about a simple question. A simple question? Eastwood's voice rose for the first time. You called me old, irrelevant, and pathetic. You dismissed my entire career. You disrespected me from the moment I sat down. And you think that's a simple question? Champion stood up now too, facing Eastwood across the coffee table that separated them. Yes, I do. Because someone needs to tell you the truth. Your movies are boring. Your acting style is one note. And frankly, you should have retired 20 years ago. George? Stephanopoulos moved between them. Okay, we're done here. Sam, go to your weather center. Now. I'm not going anywhere. Champion snapped. This is my show too. It won't be for long if you keep this up, George said quietly but firmly. Robin Roberts had her hand over her earpiece, listening to the producers frantically giving instructions. We need to cut to commercial, she said urgently. But before they could, Champion made one more fatal mistake. You know what your problem is, Clint? He said, pointing a finger at the legendary actor. You can't accept that nobody cares about you anymore. You're yesterday's news. You're a relic. And the sooner you accept that and fade away into whatever nursing home will take you, the better off Hollywood will be. The silence that followed was deafening. Eastwood stared at Champion for what felt like an eternity. Then, very calmly, he unclipped his microphone and set it on the chair. I've dealt with a lot in my life, he said quietly. Studio executives who tried to control me, critics who didn't understand my work, actors who couldn't take direction. But I have never, in my entire career, been treated with such blatant disrespect by someone who has accomplished so little. He turned to Robin Roberts. I'm sorry you had to witness this. You run a good show, and you deserve better. Clint, please, Robin said, her voice almost pleading. We can finish the interview. Sam won't be part of it. But Eastwood shook his head. The damage is done. I came here in good faith, and this is what I got. He looked at Champion one last time. You're not worth my time. Champion's face was now bright red, whether from anger or embarrassment. It was hard to tell. That's right. Run away. Prove me right. Sam, shut up, Laura Spencer hissed. But Champion was beyond reason now. No, I'm tired of pretending these old Hollywood dinosaurs deserve our respect just because they made a few good movies 40 years ago. This is our time now. Our generation. And if he can't handle a tough interview, then maybe he really is too old for this business. Eastwood started walking toward the exit. Robin Roberts followed him, still apologizing. Clint, I am so sorry. This should never have happened. George Stephanopoulos was on the phone with someone, presumably a producer, his face grave. Laura Spencer stood with her arms crossed, glaring at Champion. But the weatherman wasn't done. As Eastwood reached the edge of the set, Champion called out, Hey, I'm talking to you. Don't you walk away from me. Eastwood stopped. He didn't turn around, but his voice carried clearly across the studio. I don't take orders from children. Children? Champion's voice went up an octave. I'm a professional broadcaster. I've been doing weather for major networks for years. Now, Eastwood did turn around. And in all those years, did anyone ever teach you how to treat people? How to conduct an interview? How to show basic human decency? Champion opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. That's what I thought, Eastwood said. You can predict the weather, but you can't predict that insulting your guests might not end well for you. Maybe stick to talking about cold fronts and leave the interviews to the professionals. Robin Roberts had to cover her mouth to hide a small smile, despite the situation. Champion's face contorted with rage. You think you're so smart, don't you? So superior. But you're not. You're just an old man who can't accept that his time has passed. Hollywood has evolved. The industry has changed, and you're stuck in the past, making the same boring movies over and over again. Sam, for the love of God, stop talking. George Stephanopoulos pleaded, but Champion was in too deep now. Your last 3 movies lost money at the box office. The critics are getting tired of your shtick, and audiences are moving on to fresher, younger talent. You're a relic of a bygone era, and the only reason you're still making movies is because you're too stubborn to admit defeat. Eastwood's expression didn't change. Are you finished? No, I'm not finished, Champion shouted. I'm tired of people like you getting special treatment just because of who you used to be. You walk in here expecting everyone to bow down and worship you, but I'm not playing that game. You're no better than anyone else, and it's time someone told you that to your face. Laura Spencer stepped forward. Sam, you're making a fool of yourself. Stop. I'm making a fool of myself? Champion turned on her. You're all too scared to say what needs to be said. Look at him. He's ancient. He moves like he's in pain. He probably can't even remember his lines without cue cards. And we're supposed to sit here and pretend like he's still a relevant voice in cinema? Robin Roberts had heard enough. Sam, you need to leave the set. Right now. I'm not going anywhere, Champion said defiantly. This is my show just as much as it's yours. Not anymore, George Stephanopoulos said, his voice cold. Security is on their way. Champion's eyes widened. Security? Are you kidding me? I'm the one telling the truth here. Why am I being punished for being honest? There's a difference between honesty and cruelty, Robin said. And you crossed that line about 5 minutes ago. Eastwood had been standing quietly, watching the chaos unfold. Now he spoke again. You know what the sad part is? You actually think you're the hero in this story. You think standing up to the big bad Hollywood legend makes you brave. But all you've done is show everyone watching what kind of person you really are. Champion laughed bitterly. And what kind of person is that? Small, Eastwood said simply. Insecure. Someone who tears others down to feel better about themselves. I've met 1,000 people like you over the years. You all think you're special, that you're different, that you're the one who's going to take down the establishment. But you're all the same, and you all end up the same way too. Oh yeah? Champion challenged. And how's that? Forgotten, Eastwood said quietly. Because while you're busy trying to tear down the people who actually build something, you're not building anything yourself. You're not creating. You're not contributing. You're just destroying, and nobody remembers the destroyers. They only remember the creators. 2 security guards appeared at the edge of the set. Robin Roberts gestured to them, then looked at Champion. Sam, please, don't make this worse than it already is. But Champion's pride wouldn't let him back down. I'm not leaving. You can't make me leave. The security guards approached cautiously. George Stephanopoulos spoke to them quietly, giving them instructions. Champion's voice rose again. This is insane. I'm being kicked off my own show for asking tough questions. This is censorship. This is consequences. Eastwood interrupted. Something you clearly never learned about. You thought you could say whatever you wanted without any repercussions. But actions have consequences. Words have power. And you just used your words to end your career. My career is fine, Champion insisted, but his voice wavered. Is it? Eastwood asked. Because I'm guessing the phone calls are already starting. Your bosses are probably watching this right now, wondering how they're going to explain to advertisers why their weatherman just spent 10 minutes insulting one of the most respected figures in entertainment. You think this ends well for you? The security guards were now standing on either side of Champion. One of them spoke softly. Sir, we need you to come with us. Champion looked around at his co-hosts. Robin Roberts wouldn't meet his eyes. George Stephanopoulos looked disappointed. Laura Spencer just shook her head sadly. You're all making a mistake, Champion said, his voice lacking its earlier conviction. No, Sam, Robin said gently. You made the mistake. We're just dealing with it. As the security guards began to escort Champion off the set, he made one last desperate attempt. Clint, tell them you don't want me kicked off. You're the big star, right? You've got all the power. Tell them. Eastwood looked at him with something that might have been pity. I don't have to tell them anything. You did this to yourself. Please. Champion's voice cracked. I was just trying to make good television. I was just trying to create a moment. You understand that, right? You're a director. You know about creating drama. There's drama, Eastwood said slowly, and then there's cruelty. You chose cruelty. That's on you. The security guards led Champion away, still protesting. His voice echoed through the studio until a door closed, cutting off the sound. The remaining hosts stood in stunned silence. Robin Roberts was the first to speak. Clint, I cannot apologize enough for what just happened. That was completely unacceptable, and I promise you, we will be addressing the situation. Eastwood nodded. I appreciate that, Robin, but I think I'm going to head out. I've had enough excitement for one morning. I completely understand, she said. Can I at least walk you out? I'd appreciate that. As they walked off the set together, George Stephanopoulos turned to Laura Spencer. Did that really just happen? Laura nodded slowly. I think Sam just ended his career on live television. All he had to do was ask normal questions, George said, running a hand through his hair. Why would he do that? Why would he attack a guest like that? Ego? Laura said simply. He thought being provocative would make him memorable. He was right about that, but not in the way he intended. Back in the hallway, Robin Roberts walked with Eastwood toward the exit. I want you to know that Sam's behavior does not represent this show or this network. We've always prided ourselves on treating our guests with respect. Eastwood smiled slightly. I know, Robin. I've been on your show before. This was an anomaly. But it's one you need to address, because if that's how he treats guests, I can't imagine how he treats people off camera. We will, Robin assured him. I promise you, we will. They reached the door. Eastwood extended his hand, and Robin shook it. For what it's worth, he said, you handled that with a lot of grace. You're a true professional. Thank you, Robin said, her voice thick with emotion. I just wish it hadn't happened in the first place. So do I, Eastwood agreed. So do I. He pushed through the door and was gone. Robin stood there for a moment, taking a deep breath before heading back to the studio. She had a show to save. Back on the set, producers were scrambling. The decision had been made to cut the segment short and go to commercial, but they needed to address what had just happened. George and Laura were already discussing how to handle it. We have to say something, Laura insisted. We can't just pretend that didn't happen. People saw it. I know, George said. But what do we say? How do we explain that our weatherman just had a complete meltdown on live television? Robin rejoined them. We tell the truth. We apologize to Clint, we apologize to our viewers, and we make it clear that Sam's behavior was unacceptable. That's all we can do. The three of them took their seats again as the commercial break neared its end. A producer counted them down. 3, 2, 1. Robin looked directly into the camera. Welcome back. As you just saw, we had an extremely unfortunate situation occur during our interview with Clint Eastwood. I want to apologize to Mr. Eastwood, to our viewers, and to everyone who witnessed what just happened. The behavior you saw was completely unacceptable and does not represent the values of Good Morning America or ABC News. George picked up where she left off. We pride ourselves on conducting respectful, professional interviews with all of our guests. What happened today fell far short of that standard, and we take full responsibility. Laura nodded. Mr. Eastwood is a legendary filmmaker and actor who deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. We deeply regret that his appearance on our show was marred by such unprofessional conduct, Robin concluded. We will be addressing this situation internally, and we ask for your patience and understanding as we work through it. Now, let's move on to our next segment. But even as they transitioned to the next story, everyone in the studio knew that this moment would define the show for a long time to come. The video would spread across social media within minutes. Think pieces would be written. Analysts would dissect every word. And Sam Champion's name would become synonymous with career self-destruction. In a back office, Champion sat with his head in his hands. The reality of what he'd done was starting to sink in. His phone buzzed constantly with messages, but he couldn't bring himself to look at them. He knew what they would say. A producer knocked on the door and entered without waiting for a response. Sam, we need to talk. Champion looked up, his eyes red. I know I messed up. Messed up? The producer's voice was incredulous. Sam, you verbally assaulted one of the most respected people in Hollywood on live television. You called him old, irrelevant, and pathetic. You told him to go to a nursing home. You implied he was senile. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I was trying to create a moment," Champion said weakly. You thought wrong," the producer interrupted. "And now we're in damage control mode. The network executives are already on the phone. Legal is getting involved. PR is drafting statements. This is a disaster, Sam." Champion's voice was barely a whisper. "Am I fired?" The producer paused. "That's not my decision to make. But between you and me, I'd start looking for a new job." After the producer left, Champion sat alone in the silence. He thought about how the morning had started, how confident he'd felt, how sure he was that his approach would make for great television. He'd wanted to be memorable, to stand out, to show that he wasn't afraid to ask tough questions. He'd succeeded in being memorable, all right, just not in the way he'd hoped. Meanwhile, Eastwood was in his car, heading away from the studio. His phone rang. It was his agent. "Clint, I just saw what happened. Are you okay?" Eastwood chuckled dryly. "I'm fine, though I think I'm done with morning talk shows for a while." "I don't blame you. That was brutal. Do you want us to make a statement?" "No," Eastwood said. "Let it speak for itself. Sometimes the best response is no response." "You sure? Because the internet is already going crazy." "Everyone's on your side." "Of course they are," Eastwood said, "because any reasonable person can see what happened. I don't need to say anything else. My actions spoke for themselves." And they had. In those 41 seconds, when Sam Champion decided to attack rather than interview, he'd revealed everything about himself. His insecurity, his need to feel important, his willingness to hurt others for attention. Eastwood had simply stood up for himself. He'd called out the behavior. He'd set boundaries. And then he'd walked away. It was a masterclass in dignity, played out on live television for millions to see. Back at the studio, the show continued, but the energy was different. Robin, George, and Laura did their best to maintain professionalism, but everyone could feel the weight of what had happened. The crew moved quietly, efficiently, but with a somber air. During the next commercial break, Robin leaned over to George. "Do you think we'll recover from this?" George considered the question. "The show will. We have a good reputation built over years. But Sam," he shook his head, "I don't think he comes back from this." "Part of me feels bad for him," Robin admitted. "Like, what was he thinking?" "That's the thing," Laura chimed in. "I don't think he was thinking. He was performing. He got so caught up in trying to be edgy and provocative that he forgot the basic rules of human decency. And he paid the price," George said. "We all saw it happen in real time. The show ended without any further incidents." As the credits rolled and the cameras powered down, the three remaining hosts sat quietly for a moment, processing everything that had occurred. "I've been doing this for a long time," Robin finally said, "and I've never seen anything like that." "Me neither," George agreed. "The worst part," Laura said, "is that it was so avoidable. All Sam had to do was ask respectful questions. That's it. That's literally all he had to do." "But he didn't," Robin said. "And now we all have to live with the consequences." Somewhere across town, Clint Eastwood was already back to his normal day, the incident behind him. He'd dealt with worse in his long career. This was just another bump in the road, another reminder that not everyone understood professionalism. But for Sam Champion, the day was just beginning. The calls were coming in. The meetings were being scheduled. The reckoning was at hand. All because he'd forgotten one simple truth. Respect costs nothing, but disrespect can cost everything.